Welcome to a channel where every story pulls back the curtain on family secrets, betrayals, and shocking twists that no one saw coming. Here, marriages are tested, loyalties are questioned, and the people closest to you can turn into the greatest obstacles. From manipulated wedding days and burned wedding dresses to husbands hiding truths and mothers-in-law controlling destinies, every story dives deep into raw emotions, hidden agendas, and life-altering decisions. Get ready to immerse yourself in unforgettable family drama, where heartbreak can turn into strength, silence becomes evidence, and revenge is more than just a fantasy, it's a reality. If the thought of secrets exposed, shocking betrayals, and true stories of cunning and courage excites you, you're in the right place. Sit back, hit play, and prepare for stories that will grip your heart, shake your mind, and keep you coming back for more. A wedding that should have been a celebration of love quickly became a battlefield of hidden agendas and whispered resentments. Every corner of the house seemed to hum with tension, as if the walls themselves were aware of the undercurrents pulling at the edges of the carefully constructed day. Smiles were forced, laughter hollow, and gestures of kindness were laced with control. The mother-in-law's eyes followed every movement, every choice scrutinized, every word weighed. Nothing seemed her own to trust or approve, and the dress, once a symbol of joy, became a pawn in a game that had nothing to do with happiness. It wasn't just jealousy over appearances or wedding details. It was a deep, simmering need to dominate, to rewrite the story so that the family remained loyal only to her. Invitations were double-checked for unwanted guests, and offhand comments hinted at a lifetime of secrets waiting to be used as weapons. Gifts were subtly questioned, and gestures of generosity were twisted into criticisms. Even the man standing at the altar seemed trapped in an invisible web of obedience, caught between affection and the crushing weight of a family legacy that demanded submission. The air grew heavier with every passing hour, revealing the cracks in what was supposed to be a union built on trust. Conversations about love were met with cold dismissal, while offhand remarks about past choices portrayed a history of manipulation and deceit. Every smile disguised 1,000 betrayals. The once exciting anticipation of the day morphed into fear and doubt, as if stepping forward meant surrendering control over destiny itself. And yet, amid the chaos, a startling realization emerged. The husband was not just an observer of the chaos, he had been complicit, silently endorsing decisions that should have been fought against. Allegiances had shifted long before the smoke of burnt silk filled the air, and the truth of his loyalty, or lack thereof, was more devastating than any act of sabotage could ever be. The ceremony went on, but the celebration had already been stolen. Love was overshadowed by manipulation, trust replaced with suspicion, and a day meant to unite had instead exposed the raw, unspoken battles that had been quietly waged for years. The dress was gone, but the lessons it burned into memory could never be erased. Behind the carefully curated smiles and the rituals that held the family together, the truth began to surface like cracks in a polished facade. Every laugh, every toast, every gesture of tradition carried a weight that no one dared name. The husband, once thought to be a partner in joy, showed cracks in loyalty that had been hidden beneath years of polite nods and gentle reassurances. Words meant to comfort were absent when they were needed most, silence replacing defense. And in that quiet, the depth of betrayal became impossible to ignore. Conversations that should have been shared in trust revealed uncomfortable truths. Decisions were made in secrecy, whispers of financial choices and hidden alliances, painting a picture of a man who prioritized family obedience over marriage vows. Promises spoken at midnight under the glow of hope suddenly felt hollow. The very hands meant to offer protection had been complicit, smoothing over lies, covering up transgressions, and keeping secrets that fractured what was supposed to be a union built on honesty. Even the smallest gestures, turning away when support was needed, laughing at the wrong moments, or failing to confront the mother-in-law's cruelty, became evidence of a betrayal far more insidious than any overt act. The heart of the marriage, once believed to be strong, trembled under the weight of unspoken alliances and loyalty diverted elsewhere. Family traditions, so often celebrated as symbols of unity, now felt like instruments of control, subtly orchestrated to maintain appearances while concealing the fractures beneath. Smiles that once signaled happiness now betrayed discomfort, and the echoes of unspoken resentment filled the spaces between words. Every supportive gesture was filtered through an allegiance that prioritized convenience and conformity over love, leaving the wounds of betrayal raw and unhealed. The realization was devastating. Love alone could not mask a lifetime of silence and complicity. The husband's inaction, the quiet acceptance of manipulation, and the failure to confront the mother-in-law's sabotage revealed a loyalty not to the marriage, but to the very forces that sought to destroy it. A home meant to nurture love had become a theater of hidden truths, and the cracks could no longer be ignored. The silence was louder than any confession could ever be. The morning of the ceremony should have been filled with excitement, but it began with smoke curling from the living room, the smell of charred fabric searing through the air. A dress, carefully chosen and altered, lay in ashes on the floor. It wasn't just a dress, it was years of hope, anticipation, and the promise of a future that had been meticulously planned. The act wasn't impulsive, it was deliberate, calculated, and rooted in a lifetime of resentment that had been quietly brewing. For years, control had been quietly asserted, power wielded over decisions that should have belonged to the couple alone. Every choice about family gatherings, gifts, and even words had been monitored and judged. Loyalty was demanded and autonomy punished. That morning made it clear that the mother-in-law saw the union not as a celebration of love, but as a threat to her influence. The destruction of the dress was a declaration. No matter the vows, no matter the promises, this marriage would not proceed without her approval. Even more shocking was the silence beside the man who had been trusted to protect and support. Eyes averted, lips tight, hands unwilling to intervene, the complicity stung more than the flames themselves. Loyalty, it seemed, had been pledged not to the marriage, but to the family that sought to dominate it. The cruel act wasn't only about destruction, it was about control, about ensuring that the decisions of a lifetime could be dictated without resistance. As the day unfolded, the tension between appearance and reality became unbearable. Forced smiles masked hurt and disbelief. Traditional rituals felt like theater, and every gesture of kindness was shadowed by the weight of unspoken threats. Conversations intended to soothe only revealed deeper truths: manipulation, silent alliances, and a family determined to rewrite a woman's destiny without her consent. But beneath the ashes of betrayal, a quiet reckoning began to take shape. Every secret, every act of sabotage, and every instance of complicity would eventually surface. Powers shift, alliances fracture, and even silence has a breaking point. The very act meant to humiliate instead laid bare the fragility of a family built on control and fear. The dress may have burned, but the truth refused to be destroyed. The initial heartbreak was sharp, cutting through every expectation of love and family support. What had been a day of joy had turned into humiliation, betrayal, and the crushing realization that those closest were not allies, but silent enablers of cruelty. The husband, whose loyalty had been quietly tested, revealed cracks in his promises, his inaction amplifying the sting of every deliberate slight. The mother-in-law's sabotage had been only the surface of a much deeper web of control and deception. The pain of betrayal was overwhelming at first, but it began to shift, slowly, imperceptibly, into something more deliberate. Anger that once threatened to consume became a catalyst for clarity. Every secret uncovered, the hushed conversations, the financial manipulations, the careful grooming of opinion within the family, added pieces to a puzzle that revealed who truly held power and who had been complicit. The realization that loyalty had been misplaced became fuel, not despair. What had been designed to humiliate instead became a roadmap for reclaiming dignity. Each move was calculated, measured, and purposeful. Evidence of manipulation and favoritism surfaced in quiet ways, conversations exposing long-held betrayals, and truth began to unravel the illusions carefully constructed by the family. The husband, once silent in moments that demanded courage, could no longer hide behind the shadows of control. Secrets that had been buried in fear and tradition were brought into the light, leaving no room for denial. Strength grew quietly but relentlessly, and the stakes were clear: reclaim what had been stolen, confront the betrayals, and turn humiliation into power. Actions were no longer reactions, they were deliberate choices to assert autonomy, reveal deception, and demonstrate that manipulation could be met with consequence. Every revelation of hidden loyalties, every confrontation of silence reshaped the narrative. What had been a story written by others was now rewritten with clarity, truth, and unshakable dignity. The family that had sought to dictate fate discovered that control was an illusion, and those who had relied on silence and complicity were left exposed. The heartbreak that began the journey had transformed into something far stronger. The past may have burned, but the strength that rose from it could never be extinguished. If this story left your heart racing and your mind buzzing, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more jaw-dropping tales of family secrets, betrayal, and revenge. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a betrayal that changed everything? Hit the bell so you never miss a story where loyalty, heartbreak, and revenge collide in the most unforgettable ways. Stay tuned because the next shocking tale is just around the corner.